Hey guys, SleepyJPregame.com. Going to go ahead and continue our NFL team previews. Got Uncle Dave with me here today. You guys know where to find Uncle Dave on Twitter at Dave_Essler. You guys could always get us right here at pregame.com. Team we're going to go ahead and preview today, the Indianapolis Colts. Myself and Uncle Dave will go ahead. We'll let you guys know what we think when it comes to a season win total, whether we want to go ahead and bet them over or under, or if we're going to go ahead and pass. Now, this Indianapolis Colts team, they do have some question marks currently right now. Jonathan Taylor looks like he will not be on this team when this team kicks off for week one. At least that's kind of what many of us are thinking right now as he requested a trade. And the Colts also have a new rookie quarterback in Anthony Richardson. So there's a lot of questions for us to go ahead and ask here and kind of consider. Uncle Dave, I do want to start out here with the schedule. I'm going to let you go ahead and rip and run first with how you're looking at this schedule. I'm looking at it a couple different ways. Here's what I will say. I think the Indianapolis Colts could potentially have the easiest schedule to maybe a top 5 easiest schedule. So when I look at them right now from the gate, I think their schedule is very easy. And all my notes here that I have here, I'll explain a little bit in depth. But I'm going to let you go and get a first crack here with what you see at this Colts schedule. If you see any roadblocks, if you see any things that actually might help propel them over to 6.5 win total.
Well, I don't think they're going to win 6.5 games. And, I didn't go game by game. I'm kind of looking at the Colts as an organization. And, the beginning of the schedule, they open up against Jacksonville. You have to figure that's a loss. Then they got road games at Houston. That's a losable game. At Baltimore, that's a losable game. So they could be 0-3. And, I don't know that they ever recover from that, no matter who they play. But, coming into last season, they were favorites to win the AFC South. And what happens, they end up firing Frank Reich, give the interim job to Jeff Saturday. I mean, as an organization, I think they've been in need of an overhaul since Peyton Manning left. I think they've been sort of what I call just good enough to not implode the team, but not bad enough to implode the team. I think until now, and, they got an owner, Jim Irsay. I mean, he's second only to Jerry Jones in terms of garnering publicity. And that's not a good thing. I think teams that live like that don't succeed. Teams with owners that hire the right people and let them do their jobs do. So I'm going to go ahead and say they start poorly and they're poorly managed, so they end poorly. And I almost don't care who they play, to be honest with you, Sleepy.
So for me, Uncle Dave, I kind of see maybe a couple early losses here. I see a lot of below average type teams that don't actually have a whole hell of a lot going for them. Playoff potential teams that they might face this year. I said the Bengals, Baltimore, Jacksonville. Obviously, now they have to play them twice. Maybe the Browns. But here are the potential teams that they can beat. The Texans twice, the Rams, the Titans twice, the Saints, the Panthers, the Bucks, Patriots, Falcons, Steelers, Raiders. That's not exactly a tough schedule. Right now, Vegas has the Colts with the 5th easiest schedule. I think that you can make a case that they might have the easiest schedule in the entire league. Now, they will end up with a home game here, but it's going to be in Frankfurt against the Patriots, and that's going into the bye. Both of those teams are going to be going into the bye, so that's a little bit iffy. But, they will lose a home game there, and they don't have any primetime games at all. And I think that actually could be a good thing because a team like this, I don't know if you want to put them under the spotlight. I think the schedule actually provides plenty of opportunities for wins. And you have to consider that they do have streaks during the season where they can go on some runs where it would be, maybe against Carolina, New England, Tampa Bay, Tennessee. They have 4 games in a row that they can rattle off wins at the end of the year. They play the Falcons, Raiders, and Texans. I think they can rip off a little bit maybe of a run there. Maybe in the beginning of the year, too, there's a couple little spots there that they could rip off, like maybe 1 or 2 games. So I guess I can say that they're not going to go on any major skids, like, probably like 0 for 5 or 0 for 6. I don't think we'll see any of those, but I do think we can see some short winning streaks here with them. And this number being at 6.5, I think the schedule is actually favorable for them. Now, like I said with the offense there, Uncle Dave, it's probably going to be tough. You're not going to have Jonathan Taylor back there. As I said, he wants to go ahead and he wants to get traded. He's not committed to this team whatsoever. So now that Jonathan Taylor is not going to be committed to this team, I guess you kind of have to hope in a sense that Anthony Richardson turns into maybe like a top 10 quarterback right away. And that's not going to be easy with the skill guys that he has out there. I mean, this is kind of mean, this is kind of a really young team. I think outside of the third wide receiver and Isaiah McKenzie, the skill guys really don't have more than like 2, 3, 4 years experience at best. So this is going to be a very young team, especially on the offensive side of the ball, and it's going to be led by a rookie. And typically, that's not a good thing. The offensive line I kind of like here, Uncle Dave. I think it's probably a little bit above average. I would say probably closer to top 10. I think that could provide maybe a little bit of comfort for the passing attack and the rushing attack. The Colts are going to face a lot of poor offenses this entire season, but they will play some good defenses. So this team has to score points, and I think that's going to be kind of the name of the game for them. If they can go out there and they can score points, they can hang in some games. But if they can't score points, they're going to get blown out in a lot of games because some of the defenses that they're playing are very good. I think looking at Colts unders each and every week until the market adjusts, I think that that's probably a way to look here. So I would maybe go ahead and start looking at those game of the year line odds now if they're up and you have some totals for these indie games. Maybe look at going ahead playing their totals under, and it's not just necessarily their team total; it would be the game total as well. So I think this Colts offense is going to be it's going to be a work in progress there, Uncle Dave. And I'm just not necessarily sure that I'm bought in with the rookie quarterback with a very young, inexperienced type of offense really getting it going. But I do think that there are some teams on the schedule that aren't going to intimidate this offense so much that they can, go out there and try their best and not, hang their head so much. So that's kind of how I feel about the offense right now. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, I look at, we're talking about win totals, and I agree with a couple things you said. Colts unders, maybe. I guess we'll talk about their defense in a little bit, but um, if I look at the win total, they're asking the Colts to win three more games than they did last year with a rookie quarterback. And, Luck won 11 games in his rookie year, but Anthony Richardson isn't Luck, and nor does he have Reggie Wayne. He's got Isaiah McKenzie, as you mentioned, Alec Pierce, Michael Pittman, and obviously probably not Taylor. And, Richardson has the physical tools, there's no doubt. He has combine skills, if you will, that a lot of kids don't have. But he only started 13 games at Florida, so and I watch a lot of him living in Florida at Gainesville, and I didn't get all the hype. Now, having said that, I didn't get all the hype when Stephon Gilmore came out of South Carolina and was drafted as highly as he was, and I was wrong. So I could be wrong, and I agree with you about the offensive line being above average. You look at they allowed the second most sacks last year, only ahead of Denver, and some of those sacks were on Matt Ryan for sure. The thing about I like the Colts' future. Future being beyond this year. I mean, they've got a rookie head coach who's clearly brought in to develop Richardson. I mean, Steichen was the OC for the Eagles for 2 years and had 1 year with the Chargers. And look back in Philly, he had Jalen Hurts, Devontae Smith, and A.J. Brown. And obviously in L.A., he had Justin Herbert, Mike Williams, and Keenan Allen. And, he doesn't have those pieces right now. So I'm cautiously pessimistic about that offense at this point. It's not to say that they won't, but I don't think that they will early. So that sort of lends some credibility to your thoughts about Colts unders. But having said that, it lends credibility to my thinking they may not win 6.5 games. I think Tennessee will be okay in that division. I don't think they move the needle a whole lot with signing DeAndre Hopkins, but they're a 500 team or better with Tannehill, and Jacksonville's we know is good, and we don't know what Stroud's going to do in Houston, but they pretty much got nowhere to go but up. So yeah, I like the pieces they have. I just don't think they're all going to fit together in 2023.
I'm with you with that, Uncle Dave. It's a work in progress, right? It kind of feels like this. I don't want to say it's a full rebuild, but now you have a rookie quarterback, so the rebuild always starts with that position, and then you lose arguably one of the better running backs in the league. So it feels like it's almost like a rebuild, but they've have pieces there that hopefully they'll work together. I mean, we'll find out at least on the offensive side. The defensive side of the ball, I kind of don't mind the Colts defense. I think they have a very good defensive line and linebacking core. I think they're going to be okay in those areas, but it is the secondary. That's kind of what worries me. Another year in the system with those young guys. against some of these bad offenses. Like the offenses, like I said, they're not going to have to play like a lot of quarterbacks that are really scary. They're going to have 7 games this year versus either a rookie quarterback or a quarterback that's been shipped to a new team. And that's not counting Mac Jones. That's not counting Tannehill. That's not counting Pickett. So it's not like they have to play a lot of world beater quarterbacks this year. I mean, they're going to have to play Lamar Jackson, Deshaun Watson, Joe Burrow, just to name a few. But outside of that, and Trevor Lawrence, outside of like those 4 quarterbacks, I mean, it's a manageable schedule when their defense is looking at the quarterback that's going to be on the opposite side of the field. So I'm looking for the defense to kind of at least just keep them in games each and every week. I don't see anything that really pops off the paper in a negative or positive way. Um, let's just say an average defense, their Uncle Dave, and I think they'll be on kind of like a week to week basis on whether they're good or whether they're bad. But I figure maybe average is kind of about right with that defense. What do you think?
I'm saying average at best. All we can really do is look at history. And it was I want to go back to something you said, and we may talk about it in some of our other previews about schedules and down the road and teams being good or bad. I've never been one to put a whole lot of stock in. Okay, well, this team's going to suck, or that team's going to suck, or they'll win this game in week 11, because you just don't know what teams are going to come out of nowhere, and what teams are going to be better than we think. Now, that's not to say it isn't some sort of a place to start, but I guess my point is, where was my point? We were talking about the defense, so let me go back to that, and I think I like Gus Bradley as a defensive coordinator. I mean, maybe I don't. There's a reason he's not a head coach anymore. And last year, the Colts allowed 427 points, which was worst in the AFC actually, and third worst in the league behind the Cardinals and the Bears. And that was with Stephon Gilmore, who's now with Dallas. And their only Pro Bowler last year was Quentin Nelson off their offensive line, who we think's probably going to be okay. Their offensive line, that is. So I'm leery of that defense. Bradley's in his second year, so maybe his schemes and whatnot are a little more familiar this year. But I'm sitting on the fence, and that would be the only reason that I would think maybe we don't want to look at Colts unders during the year. It's sort of to be determined, but I think if the Colts are going to win, it's going to, in my mind, probably have to be more on their ability to score points than their ability to stop people, and that's probably especially the case in that division, because Jacksonville's going to put up a bunch, and Houston's going to sort of revamp their whole offense and probably be, and they're not going to be Air Coryell, but they'll probably be letting Stroud throw the ball a whole lot more than they did sort of with Davis Mills, and Tennessee has the ability to put up points. So I think they're going to have to match some teams, and I don't think their defense is going to shut down people. I could be wrong, but if it's based on history and what they have left over, I say their defense is below average.
All right. Listening to you talk here, I think that you made one thing clear is that the Colts' biggest nemesis on defense could actually be the Colts' offense. Like you can't have a lot of 3-and-outs. Like they're gonna have to at least try to keep that defense off the field because like you're saying, you think they're a little below average. I think that they're probably about average. If that defense is going, or if that offense is going off the field, 3-and-out, 3-and-out, 3-and-out each and every game, every week, like that defense is eventually going to get really discouraged, really pissed off. And then even some of these bad quarterbacks or well below average quarterbacks that they're going to face, they're going to go out there and do damage anyways. And then the whole thing falls apart and they'll never get to that 6.5 wins. Um, I like the head coach. I think that was a pretty good hire. Obviously, the Eagles OC, Eagles offense last year arguably could have been one of the best in the league. So I do think the Colts have that working for them. I mean, 6.5 looks fair. No, based just off of this roster and based off of this schedule, I would lean towards the over. I do not like the fact that Jonathan Taylor is not going to be on this team, but maybe sometimes even though you lose talent, you lose a headache in a sense, and you don't have to worry about, like, can we depend on this guy? Is he going to be with us or not? Da, 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 da. You'd rather have that done and out of the way before you actually go out there and kick the football off. It's tough. I mean, I don't know which way to go. I lean over. I would not have this ticket in my pocket, but we do have to go ahead and preview some of these teams that we haven't done yet. And if you guys haven't seen all the videos that we've been putting up on pregame.com on our YouTube channel, all of those are over there at pregame.com. We've done, I don't know how many we've done. We've done probably about 20 some teams right now. So this was one of the teams we had left. So, Uncle Dave, I'll go ahead. I'll make it official here. Official lean for me over to 6.5 on the Colts. You're thinking lean under. This isn't a bet that you're gonna make there, Uncle Dave, is it or no?
It might be. I guess I'm kind of waiting. I mean, I haven't kept up with the Colts a whole lot, and I just go back to when who's the guy that said Richardson would start in his rookie season? That was Jim Irsay, not Steichen. And admittedly, he didn't say when he'd start, which that could mean Gardner Minshew starts the season. I don't know. And as far as I'm concerned, um, Richardson's more dangerous with his feet than his arm, and I would feel better early on if Minshew started. I'm just not high on Richardson. There's a litany of quarterbacks that have come into the NFL living on their athleticism, and for many years they lived in high school and college of just being athletically better. But not a lot of them have made good, and we can all tick off a list of those guys. You can start with Jamarcus Russell, but there's a whole lot more. So I may bet that under. I want to see week 3 preseason and what their starters are going to look like. But I would certainly not bet the over. How's that sound?
All right. Well, at least it sounds like we're kind of both on the fence here, but we kind of have a direction that we're both leaning in. So that'll wrap up the Indianapolis Colts team preview. Like I said, make sure you guys check out the rest of the team previews that we've done right here at pregame.com. Hey guys, if you enjoy our content and want even more videos from pregame.com, hit that subscribe button right now. I promise you, you will not find better sports betting information anywhere else.